Even all, welcome to the Pyramid Podcast, where three lads discuss all things English football pyramid. On today's episode, we'll review the Premier League action, including the 1-1 draw between Man City and Liverpool and a goal of the season contender from Alejandro Garnacho. We'll look at the main results from the EFL, including the Pyramid Pod Cup holder Southampton game at Huddersfield. And we'll finish up with Laura, who talks through Yeovil's 4-1 loss to Welling. And once again, we'll have a go at winning everyone some money on the Pyramid Pod treble. I'm your host, Alex Murphy, and once again, I'm joined by Tom Gallagher and Tom Lawrence. Firstly, just before we get started, Laura, great to have you back. Hope you're well.
Yeah, well, the entire football world's gone to shit in my absence, hasn't it? I mean, I missed one show. Leeds inexplicably give up 2 points away against Rotherham. Yeovil, who last time I was on, were on a 14-game winning streak and have now lost 2 of the last 3. And to top it all off, Alejandro Garnacho now holds the accolade for probably the greatest Premier League goal ever scored. So I'm not going to be missing another one in a hurry.
No, don't go off again. Tomo, we'll get straight into the Prem action. Man City 1, Liverpool 1. Liverpool probably delighted with the point, you'd say, on reflection.
Yeah, definitely. I thought City were definitely the better team in the first half, and probably could have maybe gone 1 or 2 goals further in front. But Liverpool grew into the game in the second half, and probably just because City didn't put them away, probably deserved the equaliser in the end. It was a bit of a poor game, really. City seem to be in quite a lot of those lately, albeit the 4-4, if you ignore the 4-4 Chelsea game. But yeah, another goal for Erling Haaland. He's becoming sort of, he scores in, he's not like a flat track bully, is he? He just scores every single week and scores in the big games. Bit of a mistake for Alisson for the goal. Didn't think he looked great. I don't know whether Klopp will put that down to the sort of 12:30 kickoff and him coming from South America. I thought Trent's sort of basically difference in his performance for going forward and going backwards is just like, it just seems like the same thing every single week. Like Nathan Ake skipped past that Szoboszlai and then Trent like with absolute ease to set up Haaland, and just watch it on replay and it's just like Trent is, it's honestly unbelievably bad defending from him. Then obviously sets up Haaland and scores, but then Trent in the second half starts getting on the ball a bit more. Liverpool start playing a little bit more, and obviously he shows the quality for the goal. It was an unbelievable first touch, and it set him up perfectly to score. And I can't lie, I absolutely love the celebration. And I posted a couple of the pictures on Twitter, and you just see there's this like 10-year-old kid, maybe even younger, just in the front row, and he's giving Trent Alexander-Arnold the double V's. But yeah, so it was a good moment. Probably bit of a poor game, but fair point all round, I'd suggest.
Laura obviously finished 1-1, but I think there was a chance in the second half, I think it was, for Ruben Diaz to make it 2-0. Cross came in. Akanji seems to have his arm on Alisson. The ball goes through and Diaz taps in. Just thoughts on if you thought that was a foul, or whether you think goal should have stood there.
No, it definitely wasn't a foul. It was almost a carbon copy of the one on, was it Saliba or Gabriel for the Arsenal Newcastle goal where Gordon scored? It was almost exactly the same as that. And as Alisson goes up, he knows he ain't getting it, so he throws his legs back and he takes himself off balance. Nothing to do with, if you pause it, it looks like Akanji has got his arm on him, but there's no push or anything like that. He doesn't cause it not to happen. So I think that goal should have stood, but the difference between the two is the on-field decision was goal at Newcastle and the on-field decision here was no goal. So then it's got to be clear and obvious enough not to overturn. And if they don't think it is, then they shouldn't overturn it. So I haven't got a massive complaint about it. But I thought that goal should have stood. But I thought it was another game where City, this keeps happening, and this is what I thought as well at the start of the season. And it keeps happening where City aren't in as many games now where you just think the other team haven't got a chance. Like for the last few seasons, it just seems like, they'll score in the first 5 minutes and then they're just away. But they've lost to Arsenal. They drew the other day against Chelsea. They lost to Wolves. Another game where they haven't won. This is at home as well. And I just get the feeling they ain't going to win the league this year because they're just not quite as ruthless. And I think a lot of it comes down to, I mean, Jeremy Doku's got a lot of praise and credit so far for his performances. And I think he's really, really good up until that last bit. And the final product, whether it's a ruthless finish or whether it's a clear-cut assist. And if you look down through the last 5 or 6 years where they've had Sterling, who would have like lots and lots of goals and form and momentum. The same with Riyad Mahrez. They've got rid of them. And I don't think Jeremy Doku is replacing the output in terms of goals and assists. Grealish didn't do it last season. Foden probably needs to add more consistency to his goals. And I think they're missing that alongside, like I always say, the sort of Gundogan's. And of course, KDB's a big miss. So I love the fact that they drew the game because it means that top 4 and top 5 are closer together and we're going to have a proper title race hopefully this season. But I actually quite enjoyed the game. I thought it was quite good, but a lot more even than you normally would expect a game at the Etihad again.
Yeah, just on Doku, he got a weird thing about him and Trent sort of battle was that Gary Neville gave Trent man of the match, and the official Premier League man of the match was Doku. So it was obviously a really good battle, and I think I saw a stat where Doku successfully dribbled past Trent 7 times in the game. But actually, if you look at those individual dribbles, like Laura's just said, there's not much output from them, if you know what I mean. Almost like he dribbles past, cuts back, and then passes back to Rodri, and it's quite a lot of that. Thing is, with what you're saying, Laura, about sort of City not hitting their stride a bit, they were the same last season. This time last year, they're like 9 points behind Arsenal. So actually, I think it's worrying that they're so far up, and I know they're 1 point off Arsenal because after Arsenal's win now, and they've not, like you said, I completely agree. Then they haven't hit their stride. They're not like free flowing. They do look a little bit vulnerable, and it does always seem to gets to about Christmas time where Pep Guardiola works it all out and they go on a run, which I hope doesn't happen, but it's still worrying.
But like the point I'm trying to make is I think they've lost a lot of those big game match winners. And like Jeremy Doku, I think he got 4 assists in one game the other day, but against Bournemouth when they win 6-1. You're always going to have those games, but so will all the other teams. It's when you're playing Liverpool at home and you need to take the game away. And Gundogan would pop up so many of those goals. Mahrez or Sterling throughout the years, right? KDB's been injured, which they can't help. The other thing is, you talk about last season. Last season was a 2-horse race, right? This is a 5-horse race. And I'm including Aston Villa in that at the moment as well. And when you've got so many teams that are thinking to themselves, fuck me, we've got a sniff here. They're not concentrating on the Champions League or anything like that. Liverpool are in it. Arsenal are in it. City are obviously in it. And you have to say Villa are as well. They're level with Liverpool, I think, on 28 points, 2 points off the top. And I look back at that Forest game again that they lost at the City ground about 3 weeks ago. If they'd won that game, they'd be top. Unbelievable. And after a third of the season. So I think it's got all the makings of an absolute classic Premier League season, one of the best title races we've had. And I'm not sure that City have that extra gear this year, or have that percentage above all the other teams that they have in the years gone by. Maybe I'll be proved wrong. Maybe they'll go and romp it again after Christmas. I know what you're saying. It would be true to form if they did that. It just got a little bit of a different feeling about it to me. Like the other day, I think Arsenal were 2, 3, 4 points behind City. And then all of a sudden now they've drawn twice. Okay, against Chelsea and Liverpool, but you know, most of it, Newcastle beat Chelsea 4-1 at the weekend. So, yeah, maybe it's just what I want to happen rather than what is going to happen. But I do think there's some logic to what I'm saying there. And hopefully we can have a longer title race this year rather than just City blowing everyone away.
Yeah, hope so. And I agree, 6-horse race, if we include Man United in that, who've about to have manager of the month, Erik ten Hag. Tomo, just quickly come back to one of the points you made there about those take-ons. I saw something on that Trent got dribbled past 7 times by Doku, the most in a Premier League game this season. The clip where you watch it, and I know you just sort of said about it, some of them, it's not even that he goes past him and then comes back and does nothing. It's like he'll go down the left-hand side and Trent will show him inside. And because he then runs that way and Trent's hold his position and Van Dijk comes out to engage, he's dribbled past Trent. And it's just like some of the stats, I know we've touched on XG, but at least XG's got a bit of science about it. Like I looked at that and I thought, it's not if you saw a stat that was a winger goes past a fullback, dribbles past him 7 times, you're thinking he's absolutely had him on toast, aren't you, all game? But I don't think that's the case. I just think that these stats now sometimes are just really unreflective of what actually happens in a football game. And sometimes you just got to watch a game and be like, has Trent had a good game? He scored in a 1-1 draw. They've only conceded one at home, and Doku's had no goal involvement in either goal. So I know the Ake dribbled past him and Szoboszlai, but yeah, some of these stats. Boys, we'll move on. Laura, you touched on Newcastle beating Chelsea. Newcastle 4, Chelsea 1. Tomo, come to you just on. I want to touch on Reece James, actually. Someone who kind of has fitness battles. He's in and out of the team, Chelsea captain. People talk about him being better than all-round than Trent, but a couple of silly bookings and another suspension, more time off the pitch for him now.
Yeah, I thought the first one was quite harsh, to be fair. I know it can be deemed as a sort of petulant, like kicking the ball away. I did think that one was harsh. The second one, once you're on a booking, it's absolutely ridiculous. And you've just gone, I think it was 3-1 at the time, wasn't it? And you sort of look around at your leaders then. Thiago Silva, big leader, made the mistake. Reece James, captain. These are the type of players you need to sort of stand up and put in a shift for the last half an hour to maybe get something from the game. And instead, it's the complete opposite. But that's Chelsea in a nutshell, really. We said that they might struggle against the Newcastle type team, and they're the type of team, Chelsea. They've just got too many youngsters where if you're not quite at it all at the same time, you get battered. And Newcastle proved that they're by far the better team on a day. St. James's Park, I think they've won 5 in a row there. Anthony Gordon looked electric, and he's obviously a big reason why Reece James looked so poor. I thought that Lewis Miley look was impressive as well. I think he's only 17, isn't he? His assist for Isak's goal was unbelievable. He had me on toast. I was watching that thinking, well, he's obviously going to shoot, and boom, slips in Isak. Great finish. But yeah, just not a surprising result, because I thought great result for Newcastle considering all of their injuries and suspensions and whatnot. So, but yeah, Reece James, it's a strange one. He's basically been given the captain's armband because he's going to be there on a 7-year contract, and he's been there since he was a kid, but he's not really a big leader in my eyes.
No. You touched on Anthony Gordon there. Laura, Anthony Gordon, obviously, big part in the game, big part in Reece James getting sent off. I think from memory, should Trent have been sent off against them as well? Like made 2 real rash tackles really early doors against Gordon. He's having big players, but also Raheem Sterling played well. And those two are both sort of probably knocking on the door for the England squad on that left wing position over your Grealishes and Rashfords.
Yeah, I think Gordon's one of the players of the season so far. I think he's absolutely class, considering where he was last year, sort of in the wings, and looked like a bit of a crap signing. I think the way that he's come just made that position his own. All right, they've had injuries, but he's probably one of the first names on the team sheet for them. It's really, really dangerous, and it goes hand in hand with that electric atmosphere that we always talk about at Newcastle. I mean, in terms of England, it's just Sterling's done now, isn't he? Doesn't matter what he does, he's not going to get back in Southgate's thoughts. But in terms of the game, I thought Chelsea were absolutely shit. If I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be absolutely disgusted with that. I thought just the attitude and you said before, is Thiago Silva too old? I think you sent some notes over earlier. The answer to that is yes. It's a couple of those mistakes you just never see in the Premier League. Joe Linton's goal. Have you seen that, by the way? I mean, it's just absolutely terrible. You never ever see anything like that. It was basically as if he was playing against no one. He had another one where he was on the corner flag and he went to turn and just put it out for a corner. And there's a reason that players don't play at the top level when they're 40 very often. And Thiago Silva's showing us why, but it's not just his fault. I think the whole sort of the collection of players there aren't the right mix, as Tigo alluded to. They'll have a couple of good games and a couple of bad ones, and it ain't good enough if you're Chelsea. So they're nowhere near it this season. Poch has probably got a free hit this season, but next season they're going to have to be an awful lot better. But yeah, wouldn't want to be a Chelsea fan after seeing that. And it's a shame after such a good one against City a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and I made one change to my fantasy team on Saturday, which was to bring Matty Cash out for Reece James, who looked like he had some favourable fixtures coming up. So shout out to Reece for the -3, and now I've got a selection headache because he's not going to be playing against Brighton. I've just checked those favourable fixtures. They got Brighton, then Man United away, then Everton away. So I really did my research there as well.
But can we just quickly as well? Anyone putting Reece James in their fantasy teams, like,
Yeah,
you deserve everything you get. He's the most injury-prone player ever. Like,
not even that. He likes a red card as well. I remember him getting. He never wants to play. I think he turned down going to play for England as well.
Yeah,
Don't want to play for England. He's always injured, and when he plays, he gets sent off. So yeah, that was a poor one, man.
Yeah, bad decision. I don't even like him either, but yeah.
Oh, it's personal.
Yeah. Wow, it is now, Reece. We'll jump ahead to Super Sunday. Tottenham 1, Villa 2. Laura, I'm going to come straight back to you because obviously someone who spoke so highly of Big Ange and Spurs, are we now, with Man City away to come next weekend, starting to look at a bit of a crisis for Big Ange and Tottenham?
No, God no. Only idiots would speculate in that fashion. I think they've been good, Tottenham. If you look at the little mini crisis that you're alluding to there, yesterday I thought they were really unlucky to come away with nothing. The Chelsea game was an absolute freak, and Wolves scored 2 goals in the last minute. I'm not saying these are excuses. They've got what they've got from those games, but I've seen a lot from Spurs in all of those games to suggest that they're on the right track. And let's not forget, they've had half their first team ripped out. So it was always going to be a tricky period that they're going to have to navigate. I think they've deserved more than they've got, but they've definitely got the right manager at the helm. But fantastic win for Aston Villa, who I actually didn't think deserved to win that yesterday, but they've got a 3 points on the road. They're 2 points off top. And like I said earlier, are 100% having to be considered title challengers now. And they've obviously got the best home form in the world at the moment because they've won every game at home dating back to sometime last season. And their next 2 home games are City and Arsenal. So look out for those, because if they've still got their record intact after that, they will be top of the league. And Unai Emery is doing one of the managerial jobs of all time.
Yeah, that would be like if they're all this side of Christmas, which I reckon they would be. If he wins both of them, they're going to be somewhere near top of the table at Christmas, aren't they?
Well, they're somewhere near it now. They've got Bournemouth next, and then City and Arsenal. So it doesn't seem right talking about Aston Villa in a title challenge, but they are. They're exactly the same as Liverpool. And like I said, keep saying it, that ridiculous Forest game where they just decided, oh, we're Aston Villa, so we better lose one. It's just that mentality. And I thought Unai Emery, one thing he did do yesterday is he made a couple of subs at half time because they were lucky to go in level after that late Torres header in the first half. He brought on Bailey for Diaby, who wasn't having his best game, and he made another switch as well. And it just changed Tielemans, maybe. It just changed the game a little bit and allowed them to break better. I still thought Spurs were the better side for most of it, but they've got Ollie Watkins up front as well, haven't they? And when you've got teams that have got clinical players in good form, then you've always got a chance. So massive, massive, massive win for Aston Villa. And I don't see, it's not like Tottenham are playing absolute crap and it looks like the wheels have come off. They're just under a very challenging set of circumstances, and they just need to come out the other side of it, which I think they will.
Yeah, a big shall we say, factor in yesterday's defeat was the centre-back partnership, wasn't it? Emerson Royale and Ben Davies. And Villa looked dangerous every time they got a corner or a free kick. And that, I think Pau Torres, he missed one just before he scored, didn't he? And then that Douglas Luiz cross, if you can cross it that well, that deep, then you're in trouble, aren't you? Especially with that centre-back partnership that Spurs had. Quickly on Unai Emery, his time in 2023. Basically, I heard some shouts basically saying that he's the Premier League manager of 2023. If you look at the calendar year, and I had a look at some of sort of Villa's performance when you compare it to everyone else, and actually only Man City have got more points in the Premier League in 2023 than Aston Villa. So Man City have got 82 from 35 games. Villa have got 71 points from 35 games in 2023. And Arsenal have got 71 as well. So they're a top 4 team basically since the start of this year. And there's no sign of that sort of going away anytime soon. And you wouldn't put it past their ownership to buy a couple more players in January and strengthen. So they look really good, and obviously it's a great result. But what just on Ange Postecoglou, he said after the game that he was like really happy, and that was like one of their best games they played this season. And I kind of agreed with him in the first half. I thought they were unbelievable. They're just sort of wrong ends of a couple of offside decisions or a couple of like that Kulusevski had to score that chance, didn't he? That was and they just feel like they start games on fire every single week. They did it against Wolves and they couldn't get those like if you get 2 or 3 up, then it's like game over. But the way they play, they always give you a chance, and that's what seemed to happen on yesterday. It was a great game though.
Yeah, Son had a hat trick of offside goals.
Yeah.
All of them were offside, but you know what that is, don't you, gents?
What?
Fine margins.
It is. I tell you what though, Tommy, we joked on the last pod about the 2 high lines, didn't we? And that first 15 minutes was like a basketball game, wasn't it? Just end to end. I was sat watching it like, what on earth is going on in this game? And I think as the first kickoff in the first half happened, you can see like all 20 outfield players in that shot where literally Tottenham had taken centre or Villa had taken centre, and they're all just there. And I was like, this is going to be absolutely mad. And it was. I was stunned that it was I thought it was going to be 1-0 at half time, but obviously finished 1-0. But I was absolutely stunned at the lack of goals in that, considering how end to end it was. But massive win for Villa. And I was going to ask you boys about Villa's credentials for Champions League, but we've said title race, so we'll leave that there. Mentioned Arsenal there. They went and won ugly. I've written here away at Brentford. Tomo, hallmark of potential champions winning ugly, and I think something they spoke about on Match of Day as well is winning 1-0 at places like Brentford is what champions do.
Yeah, and you could argue they've won ugly most of the season. They haven't really played that fluent, brilliant football that they were playing last season at all, and it was a piss poor game really. The highlights really were sort of Ramsdale doing his best to piss off Arteta and make him miss Raya even more than he already did. But it seemed like a big moment for Arsenal when you think they obviously with the draw early on in the day, meant that they go top. Havertz is the one who gets the goal. He's got a lot of stick this season for not quite doing enough, I guess, to justify his price tag. So it did feel like a big moment, and it might turn out to be all important 3 points to sort of get them over the line. They seem to be just doing enough to get over the line in most games this season, and that is definitely a surefire sign of a team that will be challenging.
Well, let me ask you this then, Teagle. You said earlier that it's worrying that City were further away at this point last season, and then they come good after Christmas. Well, like you said, Arsenal haven't got going into their full scintillating best yet, which they showed they can do last season, and they're still top of the league. So doesn't that suggest that there might be more to come from them? The other side of Christmas.
Yeah, I completely agree. And to be honest, the reason, City were brilliant at the end of last season, and they were just stringing win after win after win, and they were obviously piling the pressure on Arsenal, but Arsenal did capitulate a little bit. And I do feel like with the addition of Declan Rice in that team, and maybe even David Raya as the season goes on, they've just got a coolness and a calmness about them where they go and win these games. And they won later. They won later at Man United or against Man United. I think they won late against City. So they've definitely got that extra bit of steel about them where I don't think they will capitulate like they did last year. Having gone through that negative experience, the players can only sort of benefit, I guess, from that experience this season. So yeah, hopefully they stay with them this season. I just always get a bit nervous that City haven't played that well this year and they're still only 1 point behind, if you know what I mean. But yeah.
I completely agree about Declan Rice. I think he's complete game-changing signing. I think it sounds like he ran the show again on Saturday. He kind of made up for Ramsdale's error, kept it off the line to make it 1-0. I think the Raya part, though, I don't think David Raya is better now than what Ramsdale was last year. I think all it's done is create goalkeeper uncertainty and now made Ramsdale completely shot. Did you see the way they were hugging him at the end of the game? Ramsdale, it was like, honestly, like a pity hug, like a centre back had gone in goal for the final 15 minutes and like kept a clean sheet when they were drawing 1-1. And like, he looks completely shot. And I don't think Raya's putting in the performances that make him better than what Ramsdale was last year. I just think that's a horrible piece of man management and transfer activity from Arteta. And I think that ultimately neither of those two will long term be Arsenal's keeper. I don't know what you boys think.
No, I think Raya will be. I think he's obviously not been as good as Arteta's hoped, but I think he will eventually be. I think they've got so much faith in him, and the Arsenal goalkeeper coach, I think, was Brentford's goalkeeper coach. So they've obviously got a really good relationship, and they back Raya. Ramsdale, yeah, he's shot to bits, a little bit like Joe Hart at Man City. It feels a little bit like that. And what? Go on.
No, that is just so harsh to pigeonhole.
No, yeah, but okay. Anyway, and one thing I don't think's helping Ramsdale is his dad's going on podcasts like left, right, and centre and saying how sort of in the dumps he is and stuff like that, and how like as if like he's the first player in history to be dropped. It's like these things happen. You go through ups and downs. You just got like just move forward and work hard. But it just feels like because he's English and because he wasn't that bad last season. I actually thought that Ramsdale sort of in the running last year wasn't great. And I think that's why Arteta's decided to make the change. But because he's English, people are kicking off and we're always talking about it. But like I think Raya's better.
The way that the club's handled it, though, is just so poor. Like, you've got to remember, Aaron Ramsdale was given a new deal, I think, in the summer. There was a big announcement about Aaron Ramsdale signing on for another fucking 4 years or whatever it was. And then a few games into the season to sign Raya and change it. And then come out and say, yeah, I'm a bit of a maverick and I want to have, like, you know, in and out keepers, when it was clearly just replacing him with a keeper that we want. We want to go in a different direction. We want David Raya. He's obviously got that sort of exotic play out from the back type style that we want here. Aaron, you're a great lad and stuff, but maybe suited elsewhere. No problem. But they've just caused a massive sort of storm. And then you leave yourself open to shit performances when Ramsdale has to come in every now and again after his dad coming out and publicly saying stuff. So maybe there was no easy way of doing it, but I rate Aaron Ramsdale. And to say that he's shot like Joe Hart and should be shipped off to Burnley or Celtic, I think is
no. But he looked shot to bits on the weekend, and
he had a bad game. He had a bad game after what's been an incredibly difficult period of his career, where he's had the number one gloves taken off him for not a massively good reason. Where I mean, people are saying now that he wasn't very good. Like, I thought everyone thought Aaron Ramsdale was class. I don't remember anyone before this transfer talk saying, "Oh, if Arsenal want to improve, Ramsdale's going to have to go." No one was saying it then. And then all of a sudden,
everyone agreed that Ramsdale was really good last season up until the run-in, and the last sort of 8 to 10 games. He might not have.
So was all of them. So none of them showed themselves in any credit last season in that run-in.
Well, that's why he went and bought Declan Rice to replace Thomas Partey. That's why he bought Jurriën Timber to replace Ben White, because they didn't do it in the run-in, and and that's why he's bought Raya. What I will say, I do agree with you that Arteta has handled it terribly. Even on the weekend in his post-match interview, he refused to name Aaron Ramsdale. Like the guy or the girl interviewer kept on asking, "How did you think Ramsdale did?" And he refused to even acknowledge Ramsdale as an individual, just kept on saying, "I'm happy with the team." And it's just like, yeah, as a manager, he seems to be dealing with it sort of just not badly, just straight. It's a real strange situation that he's got himself in.
I think the British kind of football media and Twitter and things like that, when you're playing well, it's a really good place to be. Like if Ramsdale, when he was playing really well, had done that interview where he says he likes to turn around and give the crowd some, everyone would have been like, "Oh, he's a proper shithouse, absolutely love it." But when you're out of form, people are like, "I know that's completely unacceptable from a goalkeeper to admit that he takes 5 minutes."
He did that interview this time last year, so it's just been resurfaced.
Well,
Yeah,
exactly that. This time last year, we weren't even talking about it. Now he's out of form. It is completely everywhere. You know, your dad coming out and saying that sort of thing, all of that sort of stuff just adds up, doesn't it? So be interested to see. I'll be really intrigued to see if he's like, I'm going to stick it out at Arsenal and try and become number one, or whether he's just going to be like, I absolutely need to go.
Yeah, they're not comparable to the Rice and Timber signings, though. You've got to bolster your squad and improve where you can. Declan Rice is a player that anyone in the world would sign and improve a midfield. And Timber was brought in. I'm not sure it was to replace Ben White, because at the start of the season, when everyone was fit, he played White in centre back with Saliba and kept on dropping Gabriel. But another thing is, you can have two very, very good players in each position, but keepers, you don't normally have two top level guys who would start in every other team. Do you know what I mean? That's why the keeper position's different. You don't normally see it. And then just trying to play it as if he was going to like sub them off in like the 70th minute and stuff when he saw something in the game looks like trying to be like a maverick for the sake of being a maverick. But it's okay to want David Raya over Aaron Ramsdale. Just the whole thing's been a bit of a catastrophe the way it's been handled.
Yeah, and now neither of them play particularly well, I don't think. And probably both are always thinking to themselves, what's the next mistake going to mean in terms to me keeping my place? And then when you're thinking like that, you go on to make more mistakes. So, yeah, bad man management from Mikel. We'll move on from that though, boys. Tomo, going to come to you. So, second half of Super Sunday yesterday, Everton 0, Man United 3. Only really one place to start though. Garnacho's unbelievable goal in the 3rd minute. Just where does that rank for you in terms of all-time Premier League goals, overhead goals of all time?
no, it was unbelievable, wasn't it? Like the cross is so far behind him. He's got to stop in his tracks, and then unbelievable. I won't even talk about the technique, etc. It did remind me of Rooney's against Man City, because I think both kind of, this is going to sound incredibly harsh, but kind of shinned it a little bit.
Yeah,
but it was unbelievable. And in the context of the game itself, it was perfect for Man United because the crowd were up for it. There was a bit of like, obviously with the whole 10-point deduction, they were really up for it. And for us to go and do that, it almost shocked the crowd into silence for 5-10 minutes. They did get going after that, probably after the 15th minute or so, Everton though, and they absolutely battered United for 30 minutes in that first half. And I don't know how that was still 1-0 at halftime. It was unbelievable how they hadn't scored 2 or 3. But then it's one of those games where it just felt like it was United's day, because obviously the penalty incident happens, and if VAR wasn't there or whatever, it's a booking and you move on. But because it's United's day, it was a penalty, to be honest. But I don't know how soft or harsh you want to be to change your mind. Probably because he's booked in for diving, he's had to give the penalty.
I completely agree.
If he's not booked in for diving, then it's like, oh, well, I don't think he's done enough to like go down in that fashion, if you know what I mean. But because he's booked in for diving, it's like, oh, I've got that bang wrong.
Yeah, the booking for diving is completely wrong. So he's then got to turn that over. But if it had just been no, it's not a pen, I think they'd have looked at that and been like, there's a bit of contact, but the reverse angle, Martial sort of then leans in, Dunny, and then goes forward. Yeah. I think that booking absolutely killed Everton for that.
Yeah, you're right. And then once that goes in, I think United played well in the second half. I thought Bruno, he's got a lot of stick probably on this podcast and definitely from Roy Keane about being United captain. But obviously him giving the penalty to Rashford seemed to be a masterclass, because Rashford's performance before that penalty was unbelievably bad. And then he scored that penalty and he looked quite good, to be fair, for the next sort of 25, 30 minutes. So hopefully that's a catalyst for him. And then obviously the third goal, that was great football all round. So, and Martial, I think he scored 9 goals against Everton now. He's always scores against them. But yeah, so look, good day in the office for Erik ten Hag. He's picked up 15 points from the last 6 games. None of it's been convincing, but you can, like, a 3-0 win at Everton, even though Everton probably were the better team overall. Maybe obviously they can't finish the dinner, but yeah, look, good win.
Yeah, good win. Loro, someone who I think you even mentioned last year when he had a bit of a performance, and we spoke about in pre-season, and I've kind of tongue-in-cheek said about him going to the Euros on previous pods and conversations with you boys, but just a little bit from you on Kobe Mainu.
I'll give you a little bit on Kobe Mainu in a minute, all right? But I am at my wit's end with this, all right? I know there's only a small select group of individuals, people like us in the world that have the ability to execute an overhead kick like that. But and I remember this when the Rooney one happened as well. It's come off his shin because that's where he wants it to come off of. When you're in the air like that, and Murph, you'll know, we've both executed this many times. When you take flight, in order for the ball to go where you want it and have the control, you don't want it coming off the top of the laces because it flies over the bar. It needs to get caught in that bit between the sort of tongue and the shin. And that gives you the control to stick it straight back across the keeper into the top corner. And that's why Rooney, and yet again, when you slow it down, it looks like a shin, but he's meant to do it. That's the technique, and that is the correct execution. And Tigo, you were asked a question, where does it rank? And you didn't answer it. Well, I'll do it for you. I'm not sure there's been a better goal than that scored in the Premier League. I really am not sure there is. It's better than the Rooney one. The context of the Rooney game, of course, Manchester Derby, etc., sort of gives it a different aspect altogether. But running away from goal to take flight and hit it first time like that and beautifully into the top corner. If it comes off any other part of his boot, like it sounds like you wanted it to, it goes out of play. So let's give Alejandro Garnacho, a player that I don't particularly rate, every bit of credit in the world for scoring one of the two Man United fans here as well. And we're talking more about fucking Martial's penalty incident. What an amazing, amazing football goal that was that we witnessed. And the commentary and the shock of Gary Neville and all the rest of it that went with it in the first couple of minutes of the game. Fantastic, Garnacho. Kobe Mainu, very good.
Great insight there. Thank you. One thing I would say is I thought that Everton were in no trouble because they were only like a couple points off it. And I thought that kind of decision would galvanise them even more, and they'd have the players and they'd go on and comfortably get out of it. Results not going their way, and just seeing how they were with every refereeing decision, be it a free kick, be it a little bit of petulance from an opposition, how they were with the ref and their thoughts on the Premier League. This is a bit knee-jerk just because of it's only been one game, but I'm just seeing it from a slightly different angle now, which is that it might be that they get caught down in the dumps of all of that, and every game is like a world against us. And some of these teams like Luton, who I will come on to in a bit and apologise to, picking up points, Bournemouth picking up points, it suddenly feels like if Sheffield United and Burnley are the ones that are going down, Everton are in a bit more trouble than maybe I thought. I don't know if you boys agree, disagree.
I think they played really well, and I think it's a bit of a theme of this season where they, like at home, they've not been able to score the chances they're creating, and then sort of the crowd gets on top of them a little bit, and whereas actually they've been picking up their points away from home, so I think they'll be fine. On another day, mate, like they could have at halftime, it would have been 4-1. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think their performance was good, and I wouldn't worry too much about that just yet. There's a long way to go.
Yeah, they missed an awful lot of chances. It was one of the, I think I put in the text earlier, like, how on earth was that 3-0 to Man United? The answer is something we don't often say, is the quality of the finishing was just absolutely unbelievable. Couldn't have been any better yesterday. And you were ruthless in front of goal. And we do have to say that there's been so many times that we've spoke on this podcast this season about Man United winning a game and none of us being really happy that they were any good. Well, you know, like we said, they're above Newcastle, they're above Brighton, they're sixth in the league. They've won 5 out of 6, I think it is. Maybe there's just something in it. Eric Ten Hag is getting the most out of what he's got and being able to create wins. And if it keeps happening for too much longer, they're going to be sneaking up towards the Champions League places again. So I think there's room for optimism there on Man United fans' point of view. It'd be interesting to see what kind of January you have. I don't know if this Sir Jim Ratcliffe stuff's going to have any effect that soon on. But yeah, if you can maybe add a little bit or change some stuff around and crack on for the rest of the season, maybe you will be in amongst that top 4, which none of us, I think, saw coming. But yeah, I don't think you're right. When I looked at the league, I thought, oh, they're actually a little bit further off at Everton. I think we probably all expected that to be the worst possible time to play Everton yesterday. And that's another thing about that goal. We had all the pink slips up saying corrupt Premier League. It was a massive atmosphere. They were all booing the Premier League anthem. All the Everton players were smiling. And I think they thought they were going to win that game. And it didn't happen because a lot of that siege mentality and sort of galvanization was taken out of it by a wonder strike by Garnacho. So they're going to have to try and find that again now for the next game and keep up that big spirit and that big sort of us against the world. That is what they're going to need to do. But you are right, they're playing a lot better now. And on another day, Dominic Calvert-Lewin could have had a 5.
Yeah, they did miss some big chances. Just on United, we obviously said there about, I've sort of tongue-in-cheek said earlier about manager of the month, Ten Hag, but another game with a clean sheet. Onana looking better, Maguire looking better, Luke Shaw back in, I think is huge. Martinez back training on grass, and we're giving him the time now to get over his injury, what he was like before. Kobe Mainu back into the side. The whole thing about the forwards not scoring goals, Garnacho, Martial, Rashford all added one yesterday. So maybe turned a bit of a corner. We'll obviously preview it more on Thursday, but an absolutely huge game against Newcastle on Saturday night. But if they go and get something there, United, which they've not done so far, one well away from home under Ten Hag, then maybe you're right that we do need to start to talk about them with the top 4 and, dare I say it, title.
You dare not say the title. But when Martinez, when Lissandro Martinez is back fit, if he was fit tomorrow, would Maguire keep his place or would he go next to Lindelof?
Maguire keep his place. Lindelof's playing the left centre half back position. This is why Varane's not playing, is that Ten Hag doesn't rate Maguire or Varane to play left centre half. He has them as right centre back. So Maguire had no game time last year because Varane and Martinez had such a partnership. And you even saw when Martinez went out last year, Luke Shaw played left centre back because he wouldn't play Maguire out there. Now Maguire's playing really well at right centre back because Varane got out injured, and Ten Hag saying, like he did last year, Varane will have to wait his turn. So Varane's basically saying, are you really saying I can't play left centre back over Lindelof and Johnny Evans? And Ten Hag saying, no, you can't. So that's why him and Varane are falling out now. But Martinez will be straight back in next to Maguire unless we sign a new right centre back, which I think is ultimately going to be what we'll do in the summer.
Well, Maguire's playing really, really well, isn't he? And probably owe him a bit of an apology saying that he should have left because he had absolutely no chance of getting any game time back in the summer. But he's got his head down, waiting for his chance. I always thought Erik ten Hag was full of shit, saying that he will be in my plans, but he's gone in there. He's keeping Varane out of the side, and no one's going to have a problem with Harry Maguire starting for England anymore, are they? Which is good for the Euros because he is always very good for England.
Yeah, it's just, as I say, we touched on the whole Aaron Ramsdale thing and what the media is like there. You now got Maguire playing well and getting members of parliament from African nations coming out and apologising to it. I saw on Twitter. So, it's really turned a corner for Harry.
It is, but it's not the biggest leap of faith, is it, from Maguire and Ten Hag to say, oh, well, Varane is going to get injured at some point, so you'll be playing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not. But Varane's not injured now, is he? Or is he?
No, he's not injured now, but Maguire's obviously taken his place when he was injured and he's played well. So Ten Hag being, I think, is quite good man management, just saying, well, you're in the team, it's your place to lose. If you start playing poorly, you can. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, very, very good. And not just that, just what I'm saying is that isn't a situation that I foresaw arising at all. Do you know what I mean? If Varane got injured, Maguire would come in, but then he's straight back out as soon as Raphael's back. So yeah, very good all round there, and I'm glad to see Harry Maguire playing well because he is playing well as well.
And if you got Mainu, who's starting to play in front of that back 4 and playing well, you'll have Casemiro coming back soon. I think the ultimate aim of Man United as a football club is to get Varane and Casemiro, who earn, I'd say, somewhere between 600 and 700 grand between them, out the club. I think that's what Ten Hag is doing with the dropping of Varane, and I think that's what will ultimately happen with Casemiro as well in the not too distant future. I think both will leave the club maybe as soon as the summer. We'll move on, boys, to the rest of the Premier League fixtures. So Bournemouth won again. They won 3-1 away at Sheffield United, looking very, very glum for Sheffield United. But Bournemouth starting to turn the corner a bit. We touched on Solanke before. Tavernier got a brace this time, and they look decent. Forest 2, Brighton 3. Just on that, Tomo, Lewis Dunk got sent off there. Am I right in saying that was for foul and abusive language, and he's getting a 2-game ban for it, and it's like the first time that's happened in the Prem for quite a while?
Yeah, so now this is pure speculation, and I've just seen it on Twitter, but I'm gonna put it out there now. Apparently, the Brighton fans are all buying a bold cap for the next game, and I'm assuming that means that he called Anthony Taylor F in bold, see you next Tuesday or something like that, because he got booked for complaining about the penalty decision, and then he said something straight away after that, which meant that Anthony Taylor sent him off. So,
and it was a straight red, wasn't it? It wasn't a second yellow.
Yeah, I think so. So I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what he said, but that Brighton Twitter thing had me thinking he must have said something about him being bold because they've all bought bold caps for their next game.
What's the line for that though? Because you see it every time a ref makes a decision. It's like a minimum of a F off, isn't it, from players when you see them on.
Yeah, but you can,
TV.
you could probably swear and say that's a fucking shit decision, all of that sort of stuff. But when you start being abusive towards the referee about his appearance, like as opposed,
hairline's a no-go. You can call him like a prick or something, but
no, that's foul and abusive. That's what I'm saying. But you can be abusive towards the decision, but not towards the referee. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a difference.
Yeah. Touched a nerve, did it, Anthony? There are treatments available. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not all about you. I'm sure there's far worse that are said. I know that that's aimed at him and not just saying, oh, fucking hell, it's shit. It's actually a personal jibe, but it's quite funny. Just let him be.
Yeah. Maybe we've unearthed something there for.
No, to be fair, as the only podcast member who is bolding pretty quickly, I was triggered and I am offended.
Your team Taylor. A couple of other results. So I said I need to apologise to Luton. Luton beat Crystal Palace 2-1. This will mean absolutely nothing to a single hatter, Rob Edwards, or any of the players. But I would like to apologise to them because I said they'd go down with the least points ever got in the Premier League. And I wasn't even being tongue in cheek. I thought they were nowhere near good enough. But great win for them. Got a point against Liverpool, nearly all three. They've now opened up a little bit of a gap to Everton with that result, and I will be intrigued to see if they can carry on picking up points. But great result for them, terrible one for Palace. And Tomo, is there anything on the Eze injury? Anything come out on Twitter? He went down, didn't he, and had to come off. It looked like the sort of Luton player sat down on him or like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but their best player this season's been that Decore, and he come off injured as well, so that's a big loss.
He's out for a long time apparently.
Yeah, and that will be a big blow to them because they've had quite a few sort of key injuries this season. I know Eze missed quite a lot of weeks. Michael Elise, who scored the goal on the weekend, by the way, which was an unbelievable goal, and it was like it's about 30 seconds after the Luton the Luton opener, and he sort of cuts inside, does a Arjen Robben style top bins, and then shushes the crowd. And I'm thinking that is unbelievable. Honestly, it was unbelievable. But yeah, he's back. But now to then get Decore's injury, it is a big blow for Crystal Palace. But yeah, they'll be fine, obviously, won't they? They got Roy.
But just quickly on that game, as of Saturday, that game had the goal of the season by a mile and the ball of the season, because you're right, it was a little bit more than just cutting inside. He beat a couple of players and then bent it with a wicked finish, Michael Elise. He's got that in the locker. And then Ogbene's ball for the winner for Jacob Brown was one of the best crosses you will ever see. It was I was watching it thinking, what is Anderson doing there? But there's nothing he could do. If he stuck a leg out, it was in. And if he left it, well, Jacob Brown showed you what will happen. But unfortunately, it's now not the best goal and ball of the season. It's the second best ball and goal of this weekend, because we had Douglas Luiz's cross for Torres yesterday, and then, of course, Alejandro Garnacho's wonder strike. So unlucky for that game, but it was nice to see it put first on match of the day, probably because it's Luton's first win at Kenilworth Road, I guess.
Yeah, I think Palace, Elise signed a new deal, which I think means that he'll probably be gone within the next summer or so. You had like City and Chelsea sniffing about. I think he signed a new deal to get a year's kind of bumper pay, but also mean Palace can get a bigger fee. I think Eze will go eventually as well. I think, and Hodgson's got to be starting to think about retirement. I think within the next couple of years, you'll see Palace, one of those sides, a bit like a Leicester or a Burnley when they've been up previously will go back down within the next couple of years. If I had to make a prediction, hopefully we're still podcasting and we'll be able to talk about it. And then one other game, I'll come for my weekly check-in with you boys. Burnley 1, West Ham 2. Another loss for Vinny Kompany's Burnley. Again, any more pressure on him, or do you just think, results aside, he is just going to be Burnley manager? I'll check in every week with you.
No, I think he'll be Burnley manager. What I do think he made a big error. I don't know whether it was in the pre-match interview, but he basically said that he thought the Premier League was going to be much harder than it already was. And I think it was in the pre-match press conference. And I just thought, well, you're bottom. Like, how much harder do you want it to be? And he was almost a bit cocksure about it. And then just on that game quickly, I thought that Kudus, for him to react, he obviously gave away the penalty, didn't he? And then for him to react the way he did in setting up both goals, that cross for Thomas Souček's right at the end, unbelievable. And he did really well for, was it an own goal, the first one? Or, oh no, it was that young West Ham striker who come off the bench. So yeah, really good from him. He's unbelievable, and to me it just shows the strength of the Premier League when you've got people like Mohamed Kudus, who's been linked with Man City, Man United, Arsenal, Liverpool, all of these players, and they eventually go to West Ham. It's like unbelible the strength of the Prem.
Paqueta as well, isn't it? But that one from Vinny Kompany is straight out of the Pep Guardiola school of trying to fucking mind games with the media. Because he, like you say, the bottom of the league, and he's saying he thought the Prem would be harder. It's a bit like when City have won 10 in a row, and then they go and lose a game. And like Jeff Shreves says to Pep after the game, "Oh, what did you think of that, Pep?" And Pep will say, "Best performance of the season. Best. I loved it. Loved everything about it." So just one of them. I think Kompany's trying. He's putting out all the tricks, but it's not working, is it?
No, it really isn't for him. And boys, just very quickly, we have got some Monday night football tonight, which is lovely to have back. But Fulham versus Wolves, probably two teams who play nice football and create a bit, but struggle getting the ball in the back of the net. Just quick predictions on that one, Tomo.
0-0.
All right.
Where is it?
It's at Craven Cottage.
Yeah.
Yeah, 0-0.
I'm going to go 2-0 Wolves. Kuna, and then they not Hwang. They just randomly bring a 6'7" striker called Klasnic off the bench. That he scores in the 9th minute to win it. I'm thinking maybe we should start him. But yeah, I'll go for a Wolves win away from home. Just quickly, European midweek back. Big games for United and Newcastle. Newcastle go to PSG. United go to Galatasaray. City host Leipzig, which they do every season. Arsenal versus Lens. And then on Thursday, you've got Brighton away in Athens. West Ham away in Serbia. Liverpool host Lask. And Villa host Legia Warsaw. So, yeah, we'll check in on Thursday on how the teams have fared across Europe. Move on to the Championship. Start, Tommy, with the Pyramid Pod Cup. Huddersfield 1, Southampton 1. Adam Armstrong scoring again for Southampton, but enough for them to retain the cup. Probably not the result that Russell Martin's would have been looking for, though, against Huddersfield.
No, and if you listen to his post-match press, where he bemoaned the performance and said the players looked tired, which I thought was a strange one, considering they've all had, well, most of them have had 2 weeks off. But yeah, it's just one of those games. Southampton, they had 78% possession. They had 16 shots, most of them long rangers. I think, Laura, you spoke a lot about sort of Russell Martin's style of play, and they just sometimes they have these games where it's not quite as cutting edge as it can be, and then they get found out. And obviously, when you're only 1-0 up with 5 minutes to go away from home, and a late equaliser can happen. And actually, if you watch the highlight, that Ben Jackson who scored the goal, it was like one of those cross sort of in the back stick where it evades everyone and it goes in. It's kind of a bit lucky. Just felt like one of those days, I think, for Southampton. But the important thing for them is they hold the cup.
Yeah, that's all they'll take from that, isn't it? They're retaining the trophy. So midweek action in the Football League as well. They host Bristol City on Wednesday. Bristol City, I think they won 3-2 at the weekend. There was an absolute worldie scored by them. If you haven't seen that, get onto social media and have a look at that. But rest of the Championship, because there was, well, across the Football League, some mad results, but some weird ones as well in the Championship. One that wasn't was Leicester beat Watford 2-0. Jamie Vardy off the bench to score a brace. Do you see Tomo missed an absolute sitter just before as well? And his reaction?
Yeah, I literally wrote that down on my notes. I've gone, Vardy missed the sitter and then just punched himself square in the face. But it seemed to work because he scored straight away after that. And then he obviously wins the penalty at the end of the game and scores the penalty. So just peak Jamie Vardy. I just absolutely love it. I think he's a helmet, but you've got to love that sort of stuff.
Yeah, just an absolute like uppercut to his own chin. Like, what a nutty geezer. They've got Sheffield Wednesday away on Wednesday. They'll be looking to win that quite comfortably, Leicester, and maybe open a bit of a gap, because on the weekend West Brom beat Ipswich 2-0. But Loro, in maybe not that great of a surprise, because in West Brom, a team that are in good form and climbing up the table under their gaffer.
Yeah, I think that's a weekend that we'll look back on and say that Leicester cemented the league title, to be honest with you. And when you set such a ferocious pace at the top, there's no room for error. And I know Ipswich are closer to Leicester than Leeds were, but it was always going to happen with Ipswich. You felt that they were going to come unstuck somewhere. And it's actually quite surprising to see a 2-0 win, because normally there's a lot of goals involved where as far as Ipswich are concerned. So for West Brom to win in seemingly such a controlled manner, whereby we always say 2-0, don't we? If it's just 1-0, then you've nicked it. If it's 3, the other team didn't turn up. But 2 sounds like they were comfortably beaten, and it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back from that. Carlos Corberán going under the radar at West Brom, doing another fantastic job. He took over last season when they were down in the relegation zone and took them right up into the playoffs until right at the end of the season. They just missed out, but they're a good bet for it this year, aren't they? And a brilliant win for them. And they're they're 3 points behind Leeds now. So, yeah.
Just a quick one on that game as well. You're absolutely right, Laura, when you say it was like a comfortable 2-0 win. Ipswich had 0 shots on target, and me and Murph spoke about Ipswich in the preview, where we just said they just score for fun, but their XG that day was 0.16, which just seems like it was a complete off day. West Brom, though, you're speaking about how well they're doing. They've got the second best defence in the league, or joint best second behind Leicester. I think them and Leeds have only conceded 17 goals so far this year. And obviously it was an expert defensive performance if they're keeping Ipswich out, who seem to be free flowing, scoring 4 or 5 every week. So great win for them.
Yeah, West Brom top of the form table, and they actually go midweek. They go away to Cardiff, who are third in the form table. I didn't realise they were doing quite as well as they were. Cardiff. For Ipswich, they host Millwall at home. But yeah, I just wonder now if the Ipswich is like they've started to drop those points, and now rather than having that gap, it's going to be each week that they drop points. You're going to have your Leeds, your West Broms. It looks like your Cardiffs, then looking down Hull, Blackburn, those sort of teams that are going to be starting to chase them now. So it'll be a different proposition for McKenna.
It'll be a different proposition, but one thing to bear in mind is that's the second game that Ipswich have lost since February, and it's November. So let's not write them off too quickly. But, the rest of the like you say, the chasing pack needed a result like that, and they'll be hoping to pile on the pressure. But they've still got a nice little gap, to be fair. So I would have put it past them bouncing straight back in Tuesday or Wednesday's fixtures, whoever they've got.
Yeah, it was the gap's now 7 points to Leeds, but I think probably should have been 5 points. Sorry, just cast your mind back to Friday night football. Rotherham 1, Leeds 1. Just reflections on that game, and probably 2 points drop for Leeds.
Yeah, we didn't hold on nerve, unfortunately, and Somerville opened the account after about 6 minutes, and it was almost like we scored too early because we thought the game was done. And although we dominated, we left the door slightly ajar, and they scored on the stroke of half time. But the big thing that happened in the second half, which for me is the first big decision that I think Daniel Farke's got wrong this season, is a few weeks ago we played Norwich. We were 2-0 down, and we ended up winning 3-2. And late on, he changed the whole system. We had like 3 centre-backs, 1 centre-mid, and then everyone else was just attacking. And he did this in the 72nd minute. He bought off like Firpo and Kamara, and bought on Poveda and Bamford, and it just was all gung-ho attack. in the 72nd minute against Rotherham when it was 1-1. We didn't need to do that. We were outclassing them, and we just needed to be a little bit more patient and keep probing and keep playing, and eventually a chance would have opened up. And when you see a formation of 3-1-6 or whatever it would have been, 3-1-6, as a fan, you almost think this can't be plan A, B, or C. So you're just chucking everything at it and hoping something comes off here. And I didn't really have much confidence it would. And another game with no goal for Patrick Bamford. That must be coming on very, very close to a year now, I reckon, since he's got any joy. So, we were quite good in the game, and some players were quite impressive again, but we switched off a moment before half-time to concede the goal. And that was the game where, if we had won that, I think Saturday's results could have been a lot different, or that maybe the Leicester game could have been different, because if we had won, we'd have cut the gap. And as it was, they could play with a little bit more pressure off, if there was any on them, with the amount of points they had ahead of us anyway. But I just think now it's back to 10 points. It's kind of cancelled out that Leeds win at the King Power, and it's very difficult to see the title going anywhere else now, in my opinion. But still all to play for second, and we're going to need Ipswich to drop off. But yeah, really frustrating night for Leeds, and hopefully we can get back to winning ways on Wednesday.
Yeah, Swansea home on Wednesday, so game you'll obviously be looking to win there. You just touched on Bamford not scoring there, and I was thinking about obviously signing Joel Piero, who's been a bagsman but playing a little bit deeper. Do you think if the funds are available, Leeds would sign a centre forward in January? Is that like a position that they would be looking to target, or do you think with like Rutter, Somerville, Piero, Bamford, there's enough goals in that side?
Yeah, no, I don't think we'll be targeted. We got Rutter, Piero, and Bamford, and Joe Gelhardt, who can all play up front, and then you've got you've got an absolute plethora of wide players like Nonto, Somerville, Jadon Anthony, Dan James, that can all do very, very good jobs. So if we need to strengthen anywhere, it isn't in the forward areas, in my opinion. I'm trying to think where we've been weak this season, but we've been very good. So yeah. I don't think I'm not looking at the January transfer window thinking we need to bolster. I'm thinking we just need to carry on this form. But just annoying points away at Rotherham, and then that Stoke game that we lost a few weeks ago, which is just needless, and it undoes all the hard work of like the wins against Leicester. So disappointing. But listen, we didn't lose the game on another night we could have done, because they actually had a couple of chances second half Rotherham to win it. So we just got to take our medicine, I suppose.
Yeah, fair point. So touched on Cardiff there, and they're playing West Brom in the week. They were 1-0 down in the 95th minute at Preston, and went on to win the game 2-1. So I think it was, Tomo, 90 plus 6 and 90 plus 9 goals for Cardiff, and that lifts them up to 7th, and they're only actually 1 point off the playoffs now, which Preston hold the 6th place on, who they went and beat at the weekend.
Yeah, and I've just had a look there. They're linked with a move for Kiefer Moore in January as well, which obviously he's one of those he's a good championship striker, isn't he, really? So if they can get him, that will only bolster their chances of getting in the playoffs and getting promoted.
Yeovil Town legend Kiefer Moore, apart from the fact sometimes we played him out of position at centre back, but his career is completely picked up. What's he doing then? Is he just sat on the bench at Bournemouth then?
Yeah, he's just not getting a kick.
I suppose Solanke. Oh, by the way, we spoke on a previous pod about Solanke. I've seen that the media have obviously listened to the pod and caught hold of that now, because he's being linked with West Ham's and your sides like that. No mention of Man United yet, admittedly, but the only way is up for Dominic. And then one final game, Rooney off the mark, not in particularly convincing fashion against Sheffield Wednesday, but wins a win for them, 2-1, and he was buzzing after the game. They do go away to Blackburn midweek, who obviously looking like a decent side, and in great form, but a big win for him, and maybe takes a little bit of the pressure off of him. I was just thinking, actually, they must have Leicester soon, which must be you'll have Jamie Vardy and Wayne Rooney, so it'll be the Wagatha Christie derby, won't it? Those guys in the same stadium. So be interested to see if anything goes off in that. That would be a decent fixture to look out for. Do
you think that Blackburn will be lodging a complaint with the fact that they've won every single game this season, but they're 10th?
That Sammy Smodjic scored like 12, 13 goals. They win 3-0 every week, but
they're 10th. But how are Cardiff 2 points above Blackburn? It's mad, isn't it? Mad league.
It is a
I
nut.
swear they give like 6 points for a game sometimes.
Yeah, but we speak about it, don't we? Like Birmingham feels like Eustace left ages ago, and they've not won since. They're down in 14th from 6th, but they're only 6 points off it. So that league is just, well, all the EFL leagues are, as we always say, but that is just nutty. That what 3 points can do for the Championship. It must mean so much for Championship fans. 3 points. Sometimes with the Prem, you get a bit caught up in like these teams are top 6, these teams are mid-table, these are your relegation ones, but Championship, every 3 points must just be so nice because you jump up 3, 4, 5 positions. So great league, and we will have a look on Thursday from the midweek action. Right, going to move on to League One, and I think the only way to describe League One on Saturday is completely on spice. We normally go through each game individually and go through the scores, and we will do that. But I'm just going to read through a subsection of the ones we'll cover. Portsmouth 0, Blackpool 4, Bolton 7, Exeter 0, Cheltenham 2, Oxford 0, Fleetwood 0, Stevenage 3, and Peterborough 4, Burton 0. Just an absolutely mad set of results. But we'll start with Portsmouth, who've been absolutely flying. I think unbeaten in the league all season. And they've just decided to let Blackpool turn up and score 4. And Tom, I was really hoping when I checked that Jordan Rhodes had a say in it goal-wise, because we spoke about it being Colby Bishop versus Jordan Rhodes, but doesn't look like he did. But still, great result for Blackpool.
Yeah, and it was actually a player who was on loan at Portsmouth last season who got the opening goal, Owen Dale, and they got the second, I think, just before half time it was, and then Portsmouth got a player sent off, Joe Morrell, picked up 2 yellow cards in 5 minutes, which it was curtains after that, really. And you're right in saying that they've been unbeaten. It was their first league defeat in 28 games, Portsmouth. So no one really saw that coming, did they? It was, like you say, it was a weekend of weird results. I actually think you missed I was going to say Swindon-Mansfield result, but that's League
We will
Two,
come on to it.
Yeah.
We'll come on to it when we're talking about the necessary decision. But you say no one at league, no one sort of foresaw Portsmouth losing because they haven't lost in ages. Well, the bookies did, because before the game, me and a pal were looking through our ACCAs and we thought, why are Portsmouth over evens like 23-20 to win at home to Blackpool? And this is a common theme. There's something going on here. And I don't know if I'm unearthing a sort of Illuminati style puppet string thing over the Football League. But as soon as I see something like that, I think Portsmouth were never going to win the game, because it's far too big odds for a team that are top of the league and won every single game to be over evens at home to Blackpool. And although Blackpool are a good side, there's absolutely no right to go there and win 4-0. So I'm keeping a very, very close eye on things at the moment and monitoring the situation closely, particularly in League One and League Two, because this sort of stuff shouldn't happen as often as it does.
But we have spoke a lot about Portsmouth, haven't we, this season? And they've got, I think, even though they were winning games, they were definitely conceding the first goal quite a lot. And I think they went 2-0 down, was it, against Reading? And they ended up winning that game. So, and I think the manager after the game basically said that it was the same sort of thing as it's happened all season, except they just couldn't react to going a goal down. So maybe you're right, Laura. That result had been coming, even though they were top of the league and unbeaten.
Yeah, just to add a bit of meat to the bone of Laura's point about teams that we can't believe are above evens normally that then go on to lose. You've only got to look at the first 10 Pyramid Pod trebles for that, haven't you? Where we're like, we cannot believe they're 11-10 at home, and I don't think we've hit yet. So yeah, nutty result that, regardless of the odds and regardless of the manager saying that maybe a loss was overdue, because 4-0 is a bit of a spanking. We speak about what 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 means. I think 4-0 means you've just been completely outclassed. Which leads me to my next question. What does 7-0 mean? Bolton 7, Exeter 0. Bolton go top now, so Portsmouth haven't lost in however long, but now find themselves 2 points behind Bolton. I mean, Exeter must have completely down tools there. Tommy, did Dion Charles have much of a say in that after talking about him scoring for Northern Ireland?
Let me quickly have a look. But what I will say about that game is it was worrying what Everett said after the game. Obviously, they've just won 7-0 and they've gone top of the league. and he said the hard work starts now. And I'm just thinking that's ominous for the rest of the league, isn't it? Because they've just absolutely battered them. But yeah, Charles, your boy, he scored twice.
Yeah, I knew those goals against them. That goal against Denmark was going to be big for him.
Yeah, 2 goals and an assist on the weekend. Yeah.
Still behind Alfie May and Reed at Stevenage, though, in the top goal scorers chart. So, but yeah, terrible for Exeter. I mean, aside that sometimes, they've been in League One for ages, it feels like, or in the Football League for ages, but that's an absolute stink for a result. Interestingly, for Bolton, they go away to Oxford midweek, which is a massive game. And Oxford, who I think must be in 3rd place, they inexplicably lost at the weekend as well to Cheltenham, who up until recently hadn't scored a goal. But yeah, I mean, great win for Cheltenham, but terrible for Oxford. And Laura, bit of something that's absolutely crazy is I've seen some Oxford fans slagging off their new manager, saying he doesn't understand the English game because he's come from Mumbai and Melbourne before that.
Well, he's from Oxford.
Yeah,
but yeah, he did it.
I'll just say that's mental. He's literally born in Oxford.
Yeah. What I will say is, though, and I listen, what's his name? Des Buckingham. I'm sure he's a nice geezer, and I know he's got a massive reputation that he's developed after being the manager of Mumbai. I've been following Oxford last couple of weeks, and I saw his first address of the players, and then I saw his post-match interview, and I don't know, there just feels like there's something missing. Not rabbit in headlights, but along those lines, if you get my drift. And I just worry for him. I just worry that he might be he was second. They were second when he came in. So anything other than finishing in the top 2 looks like a little bit of a failure. And I don't know if he's just picked the wrong time. And now they've got a big game coming up with Ruben Rodriguez got sent off at the weekend, so he'll be suspended. And like you say, they've lost to Cheltenham, who, although they brought in a very good manager in Darrell Clark, you wouldn't be expecting to beat Oxford. So poor start. But I've got Oxford in one of my pre-season knackers to get promoted. So, I've got every hope that they do turn it around. Well, not turn it around, but return to form.
Just a quick one on Cheltenham. We spoke a lot about their not scoring in the first, 12 games of the season. Well, they brought that manager in and they've got 10 points from the last 5 games in the league now. And I think the captain of Cheltenham said, who was it? Sean Long said that the gaffer's brought like a new desire and drive to the team since his appointment. So it almost feels like they've got a bit of momentum behind them. I know they're still in the relegation zone, but it'd be an unbelievable achievement if after that start and not scoring in the first 12 games, if they can avoid relegation this season, it'd be unbelievable.
I know that that's just the way football works, but don't you think it's mad when players come out and admit that the new manager's like got the players hungry again and giving them a drive? Like if you're a fan, you'd be thinking, oh, what? So those games where we weren't scoring and losing, we just weren't even try it. I'd want refunds for everything. I mean, great result for Cheltenham. Tom, I hadn't realised that the form was quite that strong. You're quite right. They're up into 5th in the form table with 10 points from their last 5. So maybe not as big a shock as possible. Laurie, just come back.
They're still 5 points adrift, though. So they must have been in worlds of bother.
Yeah.
Well, they were, weren't they? They had scored a goal.
They were. They did score, didn't they? No.
We celebrated them scoring a goal and they'd lost the game. So, yeah, they were in all sorts of bother. The manager saying something quite not right. Was that like a looked a bit like, where was it on a scale of like completely feeble and like just maybe not up to it to Gareth Ainsworth getting the New Zealander?
No. It wasn't Ainsworth lost his head. This guy just looked a bit like taking a job that's he's feeling is massive for him. Do you know what I mean? Like, watch it. Go on Oxford's channel and just watch. Not even after the game, before the game last week when he went in, he looked nervous. Do you know what I mean? And even if you are nervous, the manager can't look like that. Do you know what I mean? You can get eaten up with it in a team of like big pros and stuff. I might be completely wrong, but I've normally got quite a good gut feeling about these things. I think he's a nice guy with some nice tactics, but I think he might struggle. But that is very, very knee jerk. So let's wait and see what he does.
Yeah. And then just 2 other teams that are flying and play each other midweek. Stevenage went and won 3-0 away at Fleetwood, as I touched on. Jamie Reed scored again, up to 12 goals. And then Peterborough won 4-0 against Burton. So again, I think both sides into the playoffs. Stevenage versus Peterborough, big game midweek. And it wouldn't be a Premier podcast without us mentioning Derby either, who are now up into the playoffs. So I think they beat Bristol Rovers 2-1 in the week. So buzzing for Paul Warne and the boys, and they go away to Port Vale on Tuesday, where hopefully they can pick up another win and cement their place in the playoffs. So well done to Warne. Tomo, desperate to move on to League Two, so we will go there. Swindon 2, Mansfield 1. A player that you spoke about before in Jake Young, sort of sealing the deal for Swindon. And is that Mansfield's first league loss of the season?
Yeah. Ends their unbeaten run. And yeah, we spoke about Jake Young. Well, we spoke because Mansfield were my pick for the treble. So I'd like to apologise to everyone. But in that sort of brief preview of the game, I did say that Swindon have got some goals in their team, and Jake Young was one of them. He scored his 14th and 15th goal of the season against Mansfield, and he scored for the 5th game in a row. So, and if you watch the highlights, he just seems to always be in the right place at the right time. Sort of a proper poacher's couple of finishes. So yeah, great result for them. Absolutely unbelievable result, but another result that you wouldn't expect. The weekends, like you say, was on spice.
You know he's on loan from Bradford. Have we said that before?
Yeah,
He's on loan from Bradford in the same league. Mental.
Yeah, we spoke about that with like Paddy Madden from Yeovil, didn't we, before? And I think Bradford are they did beat Accrington 1-0 at the weekend, but form-wise, they've been banging out of form. Obviously, their new manager will be hoping to turn that around, but they must be looking at those goals thinking, oh no, what have we done?
Yeah.
But sometimes styles make fights, as they say, doesn't it? So maybe just want a good fit for Bradford. Not too much loss for Mansfield in that loss, though, because alongside that, Stockport, who I think were going to break a record for the amount of league wins in a row in the Football League, went to Newport and lost 2-1. And Laura, in Newport, a side that we watched Yeovil beat in pre-season and thought would be way down there, picked up a good result there.
Yeah, struggling Newport at home. It was 2-0 up until the 96th minute as well. And this is the one thing after, all my life watching football that you can just never put your finger on. Where on earth did these results come from? Do you know what I mean? Like Stockport just win every single week, and then all of a sudden, up until the 96th minute, they're losing 2-0 to Newport, and they just throw it away. And it happens on the same day that Mansfield throw away their unbeaten record as well. So there's just no logic behind it other than that's football, and that's why you can never write off any team in any game. And it's probably why, I know we were off the Championship now, Sheffield Wednesday are playing Leicester this week, and I could just imagine Sheffield Wednesday winning because that's just the logic of having no logic in football. But look, you're not going to win every single game. Stockport are having a fantastic season. As far as I'm concerned, they're definitely going to get promoted. They're still 5 points clear at the top. And it's only Wrexham really breathing down their neck now, I'd say, that are in with a real shout. Actually, Mansfield, to be fair, aren't too far away as well. But I don't know what to say there. Newport aren't a better team than Stockport, are they? They've got absolutely no right to win the game, but they did, and that's football.
No, you're bang right. Touched on Wrexham there. Wrexham 6, Morecambe 0. Tomo, we spoke about Mullen missing that penalty at Accrington on the last pod, but back with a bang at the weekend.
Yeah, back with a bang. Scored a hat-trick. He's scored 7 goals in his last 7 games in all competitions now. So definitely got over his sort of injury recovery, if you will. You know what, the game makes a complete mockery of XG stats. I know I spoke to you boys before the pod, but I'll just bring it up now. Wrexham had an XG of 1.41 and Morecambe had an XG of 1.35, and Wrexham won the game 6-0. And if you watch the highlights, it did feel like that. Quite a lot of the goals were like deflected long-range shots and stuff. Just everything seemed to go for Wrexham that day. And obviously they got a really good win, up to second now, obviously with Mansfield losing.
Yeah, clip that up, Murph.
Yeah, I will be clipping it up and we'll be putting that out. I think...
What, the XG stats mean nothing? Is that what you mean?
Well,
yeah,
Wrexham...
no. Hang on. No. Let's put it to bed once and for all. Wrexham won the game 6-0. And Tigo, please just repeat the XG stats.
Wait, Wrexham's XG was 1.41 and Morecambe's was 1.35.
They got the result
there. Clip it up. Move on. Argument over. Finished.
The only thing I'll just add on the XG is I don't know if you were watching half time in Super Sunday yesterday, but Kelly Kate said that Alejandro Garnacho had an XG of 0.08. She was like, so that means if that had happened 100 times, he'd have scored 8 of them. And I was like, no, he wouldn't. He'd score 1 of them. Even there's no way.
Wouldn't even score 1 of them.
No, you wouldn't score.
Never ever score it again.
So
what a complete farce that all of you absolute lemmings latch onto.
Yeah, the XG at half time in that Man United Everton game was 0.04 for Man United.
Yeah, but they were 1-0 up.
Yeah.
But Everton's must have been over 1 because of the chances they missed. So
yeah, theirs was 1.15. Yeah, so
place for stats in football. Sometimes just watch a game of football and enjoy it for what happens in it. I think is what Loro's trying to articulate.
What I'm trying to articulate is that Everton's XG was higher than Wrexham's. They lost 3-0 and Wrexham won 6. Move on.
Hard to disagree. Another side banging form in League Two, Crewe, they won again 3-2 against Doncaster. So good result for them. They actually got a game in hand on Wrexham and Stockport, and they're level on points for Mansfield. So if they win their game in hand, they'd actually jump ahead of Wrexham, and depending on how Mansfield win, could be as high as second and 3 points off Stockport. So a side that, again, we spoke a few pods ago, we've not really touched on too much, but they're absolutely flying.
Do you remember their manager's name?
No, what was it?
Was it Lee Bell?
Yeah, it was. Bang on. Yeah, Belly's boys.
We're going to have to look up Lee Bell a bit more, because that's an excellent job he's doing there in amongst a bit of a Hollywood league. So we'll come back to that, Lee.
Yeah, we'll preview Crews. Hopefully, if they go and do the business away at Sutton midweek, who I think are rock bottom, if not in the relegations, then Thursday maybe we can have a bit of a deep dive into Crewe. And then just one other game to touch on, Notts County, who I think they won their last game 4-2, but they've been struggling a little bit overall. They lost 4-2 against Wimbledon. Loro, the Tom Williams, who is the fan for Notts County, I saw that he did a little bit of a piece on a guy who scored a brace for Wimbledon. Is it Al Hamadi? Yeah, reckons he's going to go on to be a championship footballer. Looked at his performance against Notts County. He looked a real handful.
Yeah, he's one of those that will be as well. It wouldn't surprise me if he goes in January. There's normally a couple every year that pop up from League Two. Remember, is it Asante Thomas or Thomas Asante, the one that's at West Brom? He was another one that got plucked from the league. Mamete, who's at Bristol City now. I know he was in League One with Wickham, but there's a few of those sort of like wingers that will get plucked. Or attacking players that just look a little bit above the level. And if you're above the level in that league, which is probably the strongest League Two that you've ever had, and scoring goals against the teams like Notts County, who are very good, then all the signs, point north in terms of the trajectory of the career. But look, Johnny Jackson and Terry Skiverton at Wimbledon doing a great job. They're 8th. So another win, they're going to be in the playoffs.
Just a quick one on that Ali Al Hamadi. He was playing for Iraq in the international break, and he scored for Iraq in a 5-1 win against Indonesia, and he played against Vietnam as well. And then he comes back from that and scores 2 against Notts County.
That is some tour.
Yeah, I mean,
some tour. Yeah,
we speak about like the South American players who go away on international duty and then sort of come back, but yeah, I mean that's some trip out in there and then back for.
And just a quick one as well. Obviously, that no way he's getting a private jet, is it? Do you know what I mean?
No.
He's playing in Iraq, then he's gone to Vietnam, and then he's back at Wimbledon, and he's bagged 2. No complaints. Fair play.
Yeah, and Allison's performance about shanking a sidewinder is being put down to the fact that he had to play at 12:30 on a Saturday and fly home from Brazil. So, yeah, respect to our Hamadi. They've got Gillingham as well, Loro midweek, who I think are one position beneath them in the table, and on the same points. So a team that we obviously have got in an ACCA, so could do with them picking up 3 points. But yeah, them and Wimbledon be looking to break back into the playoffs, and Notts County be looking to get back to winning ways against Crawley. We'll move on now, and Laura, I'll come to you. Yeovil. So last time we saw you, as you said, they were in imperious form, but seems to have dropped off a little bit, and a bad result at the weekend, albeit went 1-0 up.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I've spoken on here since that winning run. A couple of weeks ago, we had an FA Trophy game against Torquay, and at that point, I think we'd won 14 games in a row. And what the manager decided to do, Mark Cooper, was make 7 changes, which I wasn't against at the time because you don't want to be getting injuries in the cup competition no one cares about. We lost the game, and one thing that you've got to remember is all the momentum, or the momentum is affected when you change the team so much and you end the winning streak in such a bit of a damp squid of a fashion. So what happened then is we went to Chippenham and drew 1-1, which is a game you know we'd really be expecting to win. And then I think all of it together culminated in the trip to Welling at the weekend, where we lost 4-1. And I don't know what the explanation for it is. We had a very, very good team out. I don't think we had any injuries. Jake Warner was back, our centre back, who we thought was going to be out for a while. We took the lead. Jordan Young scored again. I think he's in the top 4 scorers in the league now. He's having a fantastic season, but a little bit of a capitulation after that. And it was the first league game of the season I'd missed. I wasn't there to see it, but it sounded like Cooper said after the game, they ran faster than us. They ran more than us. They jumped higher than us. They tackled harder than us. And although that's hard to hear as a fan, we are still 8 points clear at the top of the league, and we've set all kind of records this year. So I'm not going to be one jumping on a negative bandwagon too soon. We've got lots of stock and credit in the bank for the players to go and turn it around. Return to their previous fortunes and maybe go on another winning run. But all the same, Welling are in the relegation zone, and you don't expect to concede 4 goals to a team like that when you're flying high at the top of the league. But like I just spoke about when we were talking through Stockport Newport, you just never know in football, do you?
No, you don't. And former Glover, when they scored some goals for Welling, was it Abraham's hat trick? He'd done a little bit.
I think we had him on loan from Norwich. I mean, that doesn't surprise me. That always happens against Yeovil. If we ever play a team with someone in the opposition who played for us, they always score. So, but whatever. Everyone else lost as well, so we're 8 points clear, and let's move on.
And that's 2 sides in the bottom 4 now, isn't it, that we've shipped 4 against. Just, well, you speak about Leeds dropping some silly points. Those Welling ones and Havant points just seem ridiculous.
Well, the Havant one was a bit different because our team was entirely we did at that time. We didn't have Joe Day in goal, and we didn't have Michael Smith at right back, and we didn't play Morgan Williams that day anyway. So it was still trying to find the balance of the best team. It was quite early on. I think it was the August Bank holiday, but this time we had our best team out. So it's you can't really point to anything and said, "Oh, we had a makeshift defence or this, that, or the other." We just got beaten badly. So
I actually thought his post-match presser, I don't know if you agree with me, Laura, was pitch perfect and a managerial masterclass. And I thought, like, you quite often see sort of lower league managers going viral in their post-match press conferences, for going like hammer and tong into their players for obviously a bad result. And he probably could have done that. But he sort of said, look, these players have been brilliant for me this season. We'll let him have this one and we'll go again the next day. And I thought, do you know what? If I was a player in that dressing room, I'd be sat there thinking, yeah, do you know what? We have been good this season. It was one bad performance. But he mentioned, didn't he? Said the players, they knew that they didn't run as hard. They knew they didn't run or weren't as determined as the Welling players. So I think it was a managerial masterclass, albeit it all depends on what the next couple of results are. But I think
exactly
he did.
That.
Yeah, I thought he did really well there.
Exactly that. The proof's in the pudding with that, isn't it? And unfortunately, the next game for Yeovil's Wrexham away in the FA Cup on Sunday, live on TV.
That was a free hit.
Huh?
You said it was a free hit, and it is really, isn't it?
It is a free hit, but we then go to Bath in the league in a big game, they're like 4th Bath away on the Wednesday. And if we go and get trounced by Wrexham, all of a sudden you've lost 3 of your last 4, quite badly as well. So I'm not sure free hit's the right terminology. I'd much rather be going into that game off the back of all of those wins rather than drawing at Chippenham and getting smashed up at Welling. So really, really interesting to see what the reaction's like, albeit against a brilliant Wrexham team.
Yeah, Yeah, free hit, but you don't want to get embarrassed, do you? You want to maintain some sort of form before going back into the league. But yeah, hopefully a bit of turnaround in fortunes for Yeovil. But I think if we'd have said end of November, you're happy with 8 points clear in the league, I think everyone would be. So yeah, nothing to panic about yet. Boys, we'll finish up with another Pyramid Pod treble. Midweek action, obviously, so loads to pick from across Europe and the Football League. Tomo, do you want to go first this week?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna try and pick a banker because I seem to be getting them wrong every single week. So I'm gonna go Middlesbrough at home to Preston. It's 4-6, so it's not great odds. But Middlesbrough did lose to Bristol City on the weekend, but I just fancy them.
Laurie?
I'm going to go Bolton to beat Oxford away, 9-5. Way too big odds.
I'm going to stay in League One. I'm going to go for Derby away at Port Vale at evens. Again, think great odds. So that's Middlesbrough home to Preston, Bolton away at Oxford, and Derby away at Port Vale. £10 on that with Sky Bet will return you £93.33. Got to keep the faith with this. A win is very much due. Might get slightly better odds with other bookmakers, but I said last week that I thought that was going to be it for the treble, but I hadn't banked on your two teams losing. Let's keep the faith. This week we'll get one and hopefully get a bit of profit back into the accounts. But boys, that's all we got time for. We'll be back on Thursday. Obviously review all the midweek European and Football League action and look ahead to the weekend action as well. But pleasure as always. Have a great week and speak to you soon.
Cheers, boys.